guys can see the
Hi,
kind of
guys.
attire.
Hi, everybody. I'm the beekeeper. And as you can see, I've got my bee suit on. It's all white because it's the best thing that, so that bees aren't scared of me if it was black or any other color. And if you look, I've got a veil on. I've got a hood, a head. It covers my face. This is a screen that keeps bees from coming in, but I can see through it. So can you guys all see me? Hi. All right, and on my hands, as you can see, I've got gloves. These are leather gloves, and oh, you can see some yellow on my fingers because I've been working with some honey, guys. And over here, let me show you, we've got a hive here. Now, there aren't actually bees in here, but this is a hive where bees would live. And there would be about 50 to 60,000 bees in here. So let me just show you. So there's the top of the hive. It's got a lid. And this is called the cover. And on the bottom of the hive, there's a little opening right here. And as you can guess, this is where bees fly in and out of the hive. Now, there's a lot of times there's a bunch of bees that are sitting here, and they are the guard bees. They're the ones that are guarding the hive. So when I approach a hive, I always come from behind it. If I come from behind it, I won't be bothering the bees too much. But if I come in front of it, these guard bees will come out and they will spray a pheromone on me. And this pheromone is another word for a smell. They will put a smell on me saying, this person is trying to attack our hive. And so all the other bees will come out and they'll start stinging you. So you got to be very careful about approaching the front of the hive. So let me just show you. We can take off the lid of the cover of the hive, and inside we've got some frames. As you can see, we've got pictures on these frames, but normally there would be honeycombs just like this. And the honeycombs, just like I said, has 6-sided, and they store honey and the baby bees.
Mr. Beekeeper, could you show him a picture of a queen bee?
Yes. Well, we beekeepers, we like to label the queen bees. So if you look over here, you can see a little blue dot on the queen bee. And this is because we want to spot the bee really, really easily. She's one of the most important bees out there in our hive. So we glue a little piece of number on her, and that's so that we can identify her really easily. And don't worry, that glue doesn't hurt her, or that number doesn't hurt her, or it doesn't hurt her flight, so she can still fly. So you can see right there, I've labeled number 22 on this queen bee, and you can look at her. She's a lot bigger than the other bees. She's a lot longer. So, and bees are very, very interesting. If you've ever seen a bunch of bees together, these are bees that are swarming, and they're swarming around, and they're getting ready and looking for a hive to be a part of. And they'll look in the hollow trees, and they'll look at different places. And sometimes you might even beekeepers like me will collect the bees and put them in our own hive. So whenever you see a bunch of bees that are swarming around, then call a beekeeper and he would love to take them. Right here, you can see this white stuff. Now, what is this white stuff, Christy? It's called,
Go ahead.
It's called royal jelly. And this is some special jelly that comes from their foreheads. And it comes out, and they feed the young with this royal jelly. Now, if they feed it over and over, because they feed the young only about 3 days with this royal jelly, but if you feed it for a really, really long time, it'll turn into a queen bee. So let me show you some other things that I have here. Here is a close-up of the difference between a drone bee who's got really big eyes, and next to it is a worker bee who has smaller eyes. So you can see the difference of the eyes for sure. And here they are, just like in the video, Christy, we saw. They're sharing some of that sweet nectar that they brought back. They stored it in their honey stomach, and they spit it back up, and they're ready to fan it and to create it into honey. Here we have a picture of the queen bee mating with a drone bee. And like I said, she stings the drone bee and it dies after the mating flight. And let me talk about ventilation here for a second. Ventilation is when the bees move their wings really fast, and they will either warm up during the winter. They need to keep their hives warm during the winter, or they'll cool it down during the hot, hot summer. So did you guys all have fun and learn something from the beekeeper today?
Yay!
It was nice meeting you.
Thank you, Mr. Beekeeper. Okay, Patrick.
Okay, it was nice to see the beekeeper, guys. It's funny because when the beekeeper wants to open up the hive, he always has to smoke them, and that's to trick the bees that their hive is on fire. And it's to trick them so that the beekeeper can take some of its honey. And when the bees think that their hive is on fire, they eat up a lot of honey, and it calms them down. Just like Chrissy said, it really makes it. It's just like at Thanksgiving, if you eat a lot of turkey, you sometimes get, they get
Makes
a
you
little bit
sleepy.
tired and calm, but they don't completely go to sleep, because we know that bees don't sleep.
Hey, Casey, are you still with us?
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, we just would love to hear part of the reason farmers really appreciate pollinators. Can you help us with that?
Yes, farmers love pollinators because they eat harmful insects that damage crops. They reduce or eliminate the amount of pesticides that are needed, which saves the crops, or that saves the farmers thousands of dollars.
That's right.
They increase crop production, and they spread seeds.
We're going to talk a little bit about the only pollinator that's a mammal, and that's the bat. And that's the one that pollinates and spreads seeds and helps populate forests. So that'll be on the last day. But thank you so much, Casey, because we need to realize how important pollinators are to the food. We told you they're responsible for 1/3 of what we eat. So if you take your plate and you divide it into 3 parts, 1/3 of that would disappear without pollinators. So how does Colorado and Weld County rank as far as production of crops, Casey?
Weld County ranks first in Colorado for the production of crops. And let me check 1 second. I just want to make sure I'm saying it correctly.
I think it's 3rd in Colorado and 1st in Weld County, isn't it? Or do I have that backwards?
No, I think
And
it's first.
15th in the US. 9th in the US.
Ninth.
9th,
Yep,
sorry.
it's first in Colorado and 9th in the US.
There we go. So we wanted to be sure and check on or touch on that, since that has to do with one of your test questions that you guys took earlier. So thanks, Casey. One of the things that I know that I do with my own garden, and we do with our community garden at Houston Gardens, is we release ladybugs. And that's because they'll eat a lot of the aphids that try to eat up crops, and it really helps. And then you don't need to have as many natural pesticides. So we'll also address ladybugs at our next session, so you guys can learn more about them too. So you guys can help us to educate adults about the use of pesticides and things that are poisonous, because some folks will use that thinking that they'll keep weeds under control, which it might, but there's natural ways to do that too. But those pesticides will totally annihilate bees and ladybugs and butterflies and different phases of that life cycle. So we really have to be careful of that. So what else happens? Do you guys know what habitat is? So we all live in a habitat, believe it or not. We have to have air, we have to have water, we have to have sunshine. Well, guess what happens when we have a lot of population growth and there's new houses being built and they're taking down trees and plants are disappearing and flowers are maybe being more sculptured rather than growing wild? That decreases the animal's habitat. And one of the other most important things, if you guys start planting pollinating flowers that attract pollinators in your yard, you need to also have a water source for them. And like with butterflies and bees, if you have kind of a small pan that's shallow and has rocks in it, that allows them to land and be able to drink and get that important moisture that they need. Patrick, do you want to talk to them about puddling?
Yeah, so puddling is where you'll see a lot of times in a puddle, you'll see different kinds of insects that are quickly drinking up, and even sometimes butterflies, and they will drink up and even eat kind of like the minerals from the mud and the water that they're getting the source from. So they will go to these puddles, and that's called puddling.
That's right. We've got some pictures because we see that a lot when we're out working. Do you know that there's a lot of disease out there that are impacting our pollinators? Mites carry a lot of disease, so they have to worry about that too. Now, I'm not saying you're going to see a little bee wearing a mask, but they're exposed to a lot of things out in their habitats where they live, where they have their colonies, that causes them to get sick and die. And sometimes it's pollution, sometimes it's climate change, sometimes it's predators, the pesticides we talked about. So all of those things are having an impact. And what do you think would happen if our pollinators all died? What would happen to the food you guys like? By a show of hands, you guys, who likes strawberries? Who likes oranges? Who likes chocolate? All of those things wouldn't be here if we didn't have pollinators. Have you ever stopped to think about that? And you know what? It's not just fruits and vegetables. We have to have pollinators to grow alfalfa. And do you know what eats alfalfa? Any of you kids live on a farm? And cows, all kinds of animals. So we have chickens that require feed. We have horses. We have not horses. We don't eat horses. We have cattle. We have dairy cows, not just beef cows, but dairy cows. We have hogs and they produce pork. And we have lambs and sheep, which we also eat. So all of our protein sources also depend on feed that requires pollination. So you have to start thinking in broad sweeps about how much these pollinators impact our food sources. So again, that's why it's so important to farmers that we take good care of pollinators so that they don't have to spend as much on pesticides, so that their plants will grow. There's a lot of farming, and as a matter of fact, there's a new program out that West Greeley Conservation District and NRCS is partnering with CDOT, which is the Colorado Transportation folks, and they're actually putting in pollinator plants along highways. Patrick and I just did a conference last week where we learned about that, and I've done some follow-up, and we're going to try to do more of that in Weld County. So that means we talked about how important it is so you can avoid erosion of having plants with roots in the ground. Well, if we're planting things, we might as well plant pollinators so we have a way to help the farmers and the crops and the food that we eat. So there's another wonderful tidbit and something that people are trying to do to help. Okay, I have a question. Patrick, you can help me out. Casey, you can too. if one of these kids has on does anybody in your classroom have a bright pink or red or yellow or orange shirt on? Stand up so I can see you, or tie-dye shirts too.
Oh yeah, I see one.
Okay, now, did you take a shower this morning and put on deodorant or perfume so you smell pretty great? So if a bee came around and was floating around by you, what do you think they're trying to figure out? They just are curious. They're thinking, oh my goodness, this is something I need to pollinate. And then they finally figure out, oh, this is a person. They just look really nice today and they smell good, but they're not going to help me find pollen or nectar. And then they go about their business. Thanks, you guys. So we know that things that attract pollinators are bright colors and sweet smells and ultraviolet nectar guides. Patrick, do you want to tell them a little bit more about the oscillous eyes?
Yeah, so remember that how many eyes does a bee have? Who can tell me? Yeah, show me with your hands. How many? How many? Show me with your hands. Yeah, 5 eyes. That's right. Good. And so they have 2 compound eyes, but they have 3 oscillous eyes. And that's what Chrissy's talking about. These 3 little eyes, they're tiny and they're on their forehead. And these 3 oscillous eyes see a special light that we can't see with our human eyes. So they see ultraviolet. So let's say you see orange, red, yellow, blue, green, but even further, they see ultraviolet. So we can't see it, but bees can see it thanks to these 3 little eyes. And on the flowers, we were talking about there's these little lines on their petals. They're little lines. And these lines you can only use in ultraviolet. So you can see pictures of this, and the bees see these ultraviolet, and that tells them that there's nectar and pollen in that flower that they can gather. So it's really, really important for the bees.
Okay, you guys, do you remember in the video when it talked about the waggle dance? And how the bees come back to the hive and they'll communicate to the other worker bees so they can join them in going out and finding pollen. Well, we've got a few different diagrams in your book so you can see how this works. And it has to do with the position of the sun and then the direction that the bee goes. But we wanted to tell you also that the gentleman that identified and studied bees and discovered the waggle dance and the round dance has a Nobel Prize. His name is Karl von Frisch, if I'm pronouncing that right, in German, or he's Austrian. He's Austrian born. So the fact that they figured this out and studied it is pretty fascinating. So our beekeeper, he does a pretty mean waggle dance, guys. We'll do that if we're with you in person, but it's a little hard virtually.
Yeah.
So Patrick, if we have a worker bee that goes out from the hive to go and forage and find food, I believe the statistic I've heard is they might visit up to 100 flowers per trip. Is that what you remember?
Yes. And they make I think about 6 trips a day. So, and each trip takes about an hour long. So.
And it takes 2 million flowers to make a pound of honey, you guys. That's a lot of work for those worker bees. How many of you like honey? Honey has got all kinds of healthy properties too. It helps people. It has great medicinal purposes, which is very cool.
And did you know, Christy, that honey has been around for a really long time? Humans have been beekeepers for a really, really long time. And in fact, honey doesn't spoil. It doesn't grow bacteria, just like you see mold growing on different things like your raspberries or different kinds of vegetables that you have. Well, mold doesn't grow on honey. So honey has been around so long that they even went to the Egyptians' tombs, like some underneath the pyramids where they have the tombs of the Egyptian
Royalty.
pharaohs, and they would put honey inside jars and they would put it inside their tombs. Well, they opened up these jars and the honey was still good. From thousands of years ago, the honey was still good. You could even eat it. Now, some people say, wait, Mr. Patrick, I sometimes see my honey, it gets kind of hard and crystallized. Well, don't worry. That's because when it gets cold, it'll crystallize. But you can warm that back up and it's just perfectly fine.
That's right. So lots of great things. Do you guys know of any other insect that makes a food that people eat? I don't think so. And they also make wax that people use.
Yes, candles. And that's a good thing. They make candles out of wax and they make all kinds of things. So why don't we do something with wax?
Let's
Christy?
do. I'll get ready.
Yay.
Teachers, could you go to your boxes and we will give each one of the kids a triangle of beeswax with the hexagon cells. And you guys, sometimes these are so fragile they break. So I want to show you that you can actually roll a bee candle even when your wax is in different pieces. So don't panic. Now I'm going to go over to the other computer. So I have to shut down my audio and turn my audio up over there so this will work. So bear with me for just a second. Patrick, you can go ahead and go through some facts with them while I'm changing.
Yeah, so we were talking about the wax gland was on the bee, and that's a little gland. It's kind of like we have glands underneath our armpits that help us sweat. Well, bees have a gland that creates wax. It excretes wax, and that means it sweats out wax. So they use that wax, they gather it up, and they create their wax cells out of them. Remember those hexagon cells? So they actually create these wax cells. And as Christy's, hopefully teachers, you can be passing around the wax triangles and the wicks. And we'll get started on making these really, really cool candles. So let me go ahead and show Christy. I'm going to pin her so you can see her. Look at these candles. Aren't those amazing? And look, she even put them on some candle holders. And these are actual candles that you can use when you make them. And when you light them, please remember to have an adult with you because we don't want you playing with fire alone. So ask an adult to help you light the candle, and you will actually have candles that actually work.
Maybe you guys could even put these on your Thanksgiving table.
Yes.
Okay. Teachers, you can tell us when you're ready because we have lots of other stuff we can talk about while you're getting ready. All right, guys. So as Patrick said, I've got several. Since we do a lot of camps, I've done a lot of samples, which is why I'm using my broken wax for you today, because I don't like to waste anything. I'm a conservationist, and that means that we recycle, reuse, repurpose, and don't waste. But while we're waiting for you kids to all get your triangles and your wick, so you can have it laid out, and then I'll show you what to do. I'm going to talk to you about a couple of the bee rocks that I've done so you can see the different types of bees that I've created. So you'll notice 2 compound eyes on the forehead, 3 acillaris eyes. See the antennas? And then I've got my 4 wings, the 2 forewings and the 2 back wings that are smaller. I put some stripes on my bee, and I have a stinger on this one. And then underneath, you can see the 6 legs that the bee has. And this one doesn't have a stinger, but it still has the 2 big compound eyes. It has the 4 wings. has the 3 cilious eyes. The proboscis is pretty hard to show, but I put one on this one. So that's the tongue, and there's the mandibles, the jaw, like things that'll help them when they're trying to get into that flower and vibrate and get that pollen loose.
So, Chrissy, if it doesn't have a stinger, is it a drone bee or a worker bee?
I bet the kids know that answer.
Yeah,
This is the one that there's fewer of in a colony than any other type. And it's a male drone bee. Yay!
Yeah, and there's only about 200 out of the 60,000. Only about 200. Can you imagine that all the people, all the persons in your classroom are all mostly girls, and maybe like one boy, and all the rest girls? That's kind of like how bees are. Most of them are girls.
And at my house, since I had all sons and my husband, I was always outnumbered, but I would always tease them that I worked harder than anybody and I rarely slept. So I was a lot like a bee. They don't think that's very funny, but I do.
And that's why they say busy as a bee, right?
That's exactly right. And you guys know what? I'll give you a little secret. Ants are just like that. They are so much like bees. They live in a collaborative society like bees do. They look out for each other. They take care of their young, and they all have assignments, and ants don't ever sleep either. They're the superheroes of the pollinators, and we'll talk a lot about them on our second session.
I'm
So
excited.
teachers, how are we doing? Has everybody got their wax and their wick? Somebody's raising their hand. Yay. And I love that yellow shirt. So you guys give us a signal when you're ready for me to start, because this goes pretty fast, and then we'll go back to the bee rocks. Did you see how I laid my wick out and I kind of pushed it into the hexagons along the long edge, the widest, so your point's facing away from you?
Okay, we got some thumbs up from one class.
I don't want my laptop to fall off my table, but I'm trying to give you a nice wide shot. Oh, shoot. I don't know what Microsoft's doing today, guys, but it keeps trying to do updates, so I keep getting messages. Okay, teachers, are we ready? Can we proceed? It looks like it. Okay, so kiddos, you're going to put your piece of wick down, and then you're going to start rolling your candle. So you're going to fold it over. Try to be as gentle as you can with it, but if it breaks, it's not the end of the world. I'm going to show you how we're going to fold these broken pieces in. So you want it to be fairly tight, so when you burn your candle, it'll burn well and last long. Because if you have too much air in it, it'll burn faster and it won't last quite as long. So you keep rolling this over, and you apply a little bit of pressure as you roll. So you'll go up and down just like I am from one end to the other and roll it up. And you're just going to keep going clear until you get to the point. Oh, look, there's a little red wax. My wax is purple this time, but there's some red that I must have picked up from another class. How you doing, guys? Teachers, are they doing all right? So you just keep rolling. Kind of like using a rolling pin. Okay, now I'm going to get to where I've got a crack. So I'm really going to have to apply some pressure there and just keep going. So it'll keep rolling with the rest of the wax. And it'll adhere, and the next piece will just keep it cemented in. And then I've got one other piece that broke. So I'm going to go over it too. And keep going, fold it in all the way to the end. Take your time, use as much time as you need to get it rolled. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to squish it together. So as I said, we get some of that air out of it. And because I had so many little pieces, I want to make sure that it's all sticking together too, so it'll burn well. Now, what you can do when it's all done, if you have a little wick sticking out both ends, you decide which is going to be the top and which is going to be the bottom. And I always pick the thinnest for the top. And then that way you can snip off your wax at the bottom, and then you can find a holder to put it in that'll keep it upright so you can burn it well. There you go.
Wow,
How's
those are
everybody
amazing.
doing?
Those are just unique, and each one looks a little different from the other. They have
Yeah,
different
you guys,
colors.
yours will all look different from each other too, and that's just fine. We like the triangle rather than trying to do them just straight because it gives it way more height and they'll burn longer. But see, all those little hexagons, those are just like the inside of those panels that Patrick showed you in the hive. So that's where they put the wax. That's where they put the egg when the baby's developing, and they feed it. And we talked to you about the queen bee gets royal jelly because she's going to be the biggest of all, and how they nurture it. And then they seal it up with the wax. And then as the egg goes through the various stages of larva and pupa, then it starts to become alive. That's a metamorphosis process, guys. They eat their way out of that wax, and then they join the hive.
Okay, when you guys are, can we see a few examples of some finished ones? You want to bring them up to the camera so we can see?
Anybody want to hold theirs up? Oh, look at that.
Oh yeah.
A couple bright colored ones. Oh, you guys did so good.
Oh yes, they look
Super.
good. Yeah, you did them
Oh
good.
my goodness, look at that.
Wow.
You guys did great. You're going to have fun showing them to your families at home and burning them. But remember what Patrick said, no burning candles unless there's an adult present. Nice work, kids.
Okay, so we are so happy that you guys are getting your candles and all these different little projects. And you can always, if you want to go in the business and be an entrepreneur and make these candles, there's a lot of people that do them. They make candles for a living, and lots and lots of fun. So as Christy goes to the other computer, she's going to be sharing about your bee rock, which you can do on your own time. And make sure to label all of the parts, and she's going to explain more.
Well, that's why everybody has a Sharpie, because it'll work. We painted all your rocks for you yellow and got them to the teachers. Now you guys have to decide how you're going to put it together, but you can use the form, you know, where you labeled all the parts. Patrick, I don't have mine right in front of me. Do you? The sheet that has all the right. So you guys can refer to that when you're doing this.
So
and you can pick. Go ahead.
So when you do it, go to this picture right here and find all the parts and try to put it on your rock.
And see how different shaped. I mean, we don't determine what the rock looks like or its shape. So they can be a little abstract. So you decide which is going to be the head. You don't have to really put the abdomen and thorax in there. You just know that's part of it. But then you want to try to do the 4 wings and the 6 legs and the compound eyes, the ocilious eyes, the mandible, the proboscis, the stinger if it's a girl. If it's not, there's no stinger. And then you can put on some stripes like you saw on most of the bees that you're used to seeing.
Yeah.
Okay. Patrick, we're really close to time to wrap up. Do you have anything else that you want to share with the kids?
Let's see if any of the kids have a few questions. Maybe we as expert educators can help answer some of your questions. We hope
and the
you guys
teachers might have some too.
We hope you're enjoying your time, and we've had a lot of fun, and we have a blast putting these camps together for you guys. We have another question here, if we can get to it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
In the chat, Mrs. Stickler said, when a queen bee dies, how does a queen bee take over? That's a great question. So remember how I was talking about this royal jelly that comes out from their foreheads? Well, when a queen bee dies, they have to make a new queen bee basically. So the last eggs that were hatched from the old queen bee, they will really quick start giving it this royal jelly, and they'll feed it over and over and over. And then what will happen is it'll create a queen cell, which is a lot bigger, and it kind of sticks out. It's kind of like a banana extra sticking out of the cell, and that's how a new queen is made. And if there's two queen bees at the same time, they will fight to the death, and the one that lives is a queen bee, or the one of the queen bee might leave and take some of the bees with them.
Do you guys remember how we showed you the picture of the stinger and it's all rough and barbed?
I've got a picture right here. So if you
Perfect.
look,
Thanks, Patrick.
it looks
See?
like it's got barbed wire. It's got like little pokey sticks that come out of the stinger, and it's like a barbed wire. So when they stick into a skin, then they go in, but it can't go out. And so it's stuck in the skin, and when they pull out, unfortunately, it's connected to all their internal organs, and it rips out all their guts and everything, and that's why they die.
So that just takes care of it. That's why we tried to explain to you guys that these bees do not want to attack you. They are very mellow, docile insects. Their mission is to pollinate and bring that pollen back to the hive to share and to nurture the little babies and feed them and all that good stuff. But they are curious. So if you smell good, if you had on that pink top, they'd go over by you and they'd say, "Ooh, this is a new flower. How do I pollinate it?" And then they'd eventually figure out you're not a flower and they'd leave you alone. But sometimes we just get so scared, we start doing this, and then they feel like they're being attacked. And so then they go into defensive mode. But they don't want to sting you because it ends their lives. So good question. And if you guys have ever been fishing and ever gotten hooked with a fish hook, it's very much like the stinger of a bee. It goes in and it is so hard to get out without ripping your skin that, you know, even getting a stinger out sometimes takes a little bit of work when you get stung. So
the drones are all kicked out during the winter. And so the rest of the bees are all the female bees. So those, they try to stay warm. So they flap their wings and they keep the hive warm enough so that they can still live, and they slowly eat the honey that they stored, because during wintertime they don't like to fly out in the cold weather. It's too cold for them to go out. So they stay inside their hive and they stay warm. Now the drone bees that are kicked out, unfortunately, they don't even have long enough proboscis to collect nectar or pollen. So they unfortunately die. So the bees inside the winter are eating up the honey, and usually during the end of winter, almost all that honey is gone, and once spring comes, they've got to go and collect more honey and stuff. So beekeepers have to make sure that they keep enough honey so that the hive will be alive throughout the whole winter. Yeah, so
that's a good point.
The drone's job is to fertilize the queen bee. So the queen bee, when in the spring or summer, they fertilize. The drones and the queen, they mate, and the queen will have enough eggs. She doesn't need the drones anymore. She'll have enough eggs to make for a really, really long time. So she'll lay 2,000 eggs every day, and she doesn't need the drone anymore. So once the drones are gone, she's still laying eggs. And when spring comes, some of those eggs are fertilized and some are unfertilized, and some of them become male drone bees in the springtime. So you replenish and you get male bees back in the springtime.
Tell them about royal jelly, Patrick.
Yeah, so royal jelly is what makes the queen bee grow very large, and it's a jelly that comes from their foreheads. All of the female worker bees they extract this jelly that secretes from their foreheads, and they put that jelly inside of the eggs, so that the little larva is eating the jelly. And but for the queen bees, they keep feeding it over and over, more and more of it. And the queen grows so big that it grows big and it comes out. If you look at the shell of the whole cell, you'll see it extra long, and you know it's a queen bee growing inside there because it's kind of like sticking out like a hot dog almost. It's growing extra long. So
So
the
Dane,
queen bee is big.
for over 2 weeks, for about 16 days, that's all that cell is fed, where the queen bee is growing. So once she's out, she's laying her 2,000 eggs a day. She produces a pheromone, which we've talked about, and that helps regulate the activity in the hive. So her job is pretty important. Another thing about a queen is that they don't produce wax. And we talked about how they cover each cell with wax, so it creates an incubator basically for the life cycle of the bee before it hatches and eats its way out. She can also sting multiple times, and she's the only one that does not have a barbed stinger. So it does not kill her if the queen bee is ever doing the stinging. So if a new baby queen, Patrick, is fed the royal jelly and a new one evolves and takes over that hive, the old queen quite often will take some of the hive and swarm away and go find a new home.
Yep. But the chrysalis is a name that we use just for butterflies, and the cocoon is what we use for moths. So they're the same thing, but one's for moths and one's for butterflies.
And you guys, when we talked about metamorphosis and comparing those two, remember that we said a lot of times, excuse me, moths are duller in colors, not always, some are colorful, but they do most of their flying around and pollinating nocturnally, kind of like bats at nighttime, where the butterflies only do it during the daytime. So moths can be a little fuzzier, where the wings of the butterfly are those colorful reflective cells that Patrick taught you about. So that's one of the ways that they're a little bit different.
And you can also tell the difference between a moth and a butterfly. Is a moth, if you look at their antennas, they're really like hairy. They kind of like stick out like hairy. And butterflies always have this little ball at the end of their antennas. So that's one way you can tell between a moth and butterfly. The pollen from the pollen grains that are on top of the anthers of the flower. So flowers have these anthers, and they produce pollen. And so the honeybee, remember, they eat some of that pollen, and they even make bee bread out of it. They kind of mix the nectar and pollen, and they use that to feed their young. And pollen is their protein, right? That's one thing we learned. It's protein for them. It's kind of like the meats and eggs that we eat. It's their protein for them.
There's the parts of the flower so you can see it. We've watched that in some of our movies too. So yeah, remember the P for protein, P for pollen. It's very important to the bees and all of these different pollinators.
Drone bees, their eyes are so big because what their job is to spot the queen. So they need big eyes so that they can see where the queen is, especially when they're flying outside of their hive. The one time that they come out of their hive is when they mate with the queen. The queen flies really, really high up in the air, and the drones have to find them. So they need big eyes to spot the queen so they can mate with the queen. So it's to see the queen is the main reason.